Hi, and welcome back to Jen and Dan's Natural Healing with Plants. This is the go-to podcast for health seekers looking to harness the power for nature for health and healing. I'm Jen. I'm a passionate health educator, a whole food, plant-based culinary coach, and a master herbalist. And I am with Dan, who's not here today, but he is a exercise specialist and a wonderful master herbalist. He brings his love of movement, herbs, and natural medicine to every conversation. So we'll miss him today. Together, we dive into the world of natural healing, combining traditional wisdom and modern science to help you achieve optimal health. So I'm alone. Dan is away taking care of an ill family member. And so I miss him, and he'll be back soon. As we're approaching the holidays, I'm sure that we'll both be doing some solo casts. But today, I want to dig into nettles. Some of you have been following me for a while, and you know that nettles is one of my very favorite herbs. It's actually the one I wrote my thesis on. Um, it's just one of my very favorites. It's one that grows wild here in my yard. Of course, if you don't know, I live on a farm, and it does grow out in our pastures, which is a really wonderful sign. It tells you that you have really good soil when you have nettles popping up. So we planted some, but then we also have some wild nettles that comes up as well, as I do have a little herb garden. But you don't have to have it in your yard. You can always buy it. I like to buy it from either Holistic Botanicals. If you are not familiar with Holistic Botanicals, they are the ones who make all the products for Dr. Christopher's products. So Dan and I both went to the School of Natural Healing, which is Dr. Christopher's school that he founded, and we toured Holistic Botanicals, and they really do set the groundwork. They set the guidelines for safety and product quality. And so I do buy a lot from Holistic Botanicals. If they don't have something I'm looking for, then my Mountain Rose Herbs is usually my go-to as well. So I love those two. You want to make sure that you are getting organic or wild crafted, or better yet, gathering it from your own yard that you know has not been sprayed or exposed to any spray. So let's get all that out of the way. So I love nettles, and they are my favorite because they are really high in minerals. They are really nourishing to the body. They are rich in vitamins and minerals. And when you see them, they're bright green. And this time of year, I especially use nettles in the late fall and in the spring. So I'm in Middle Georgia, USA. And when we look out into our herb garden, pretty much everything has died back. We have had it was below freezing this morning, really cold weather, but the nettles is just thriving. So you look out there and everything's kind of dead and dying back, and no, we don't cut it because there's still seeds there that feed the birds and the bees. We do have beehives, even though we are quote unquote vegan. We do love the bees. The bees are important for our farm. And so we leave those things, and they will naturally fall to the earth and feed the ground. And so people drive by, and our yards does not look nice and cultured and styled because we like it to be natural. And so those things will die down and new growth will come up. But anyway, we look out and you see these dead looking herbs, and nettles is thriving. It's very high in iron, calcium, magnesium, potassium, and silica. So wonderful for the bones. It's very alkalinizing to the body. And so that is one reason right there just to include nettles. In many countries, it's even included as a vegetable, a dark leafy green. Hello, it's dark leafy green out there in our herb garden. But for some reason, it's not common to be used as a food here in the US. It is wonderful used cooked. You don't want to eat it raw because it does have a sting. There are other forms of nettle. You can have dead nettle. Purple dead nettle also comes up here in the spring. I'll talk about that in a minute too. But I'm really referring to stinging nettle. And so stinging nettle has a chemical in it. It's the same chemical that is in that ants have. So that sting when an ant bites you, that same sting is in the nettles. And so it protects the plant. No other animal is going to come up and just graze on it. You brush up against it and it stings. And there are other herbs around that you can use to put out that sting, but sometimes it can linger. And some people actually like the sting, especially if they have arthritis, because that sting can bring blood to the area and it's kind of soothing. If you've ever had a rash, like I had psoriasis for a while, or arthritis, you know, sometimes that hot burn actually feels good, which sounds crazy. And that's another tangent of nettles that I didn't mean to talk about today. So why do I like to have nettles this time of year? Well, number one, when I look out into the yard, we want things to be seasonal. With the herbs that are growing and thriving right now are usually the herbs that we need for our body at this moment as well. And so right now the nettles is just thriving, bright green. This is the day after Thanksgiving, if you're wondering if you're listening to this later. But it's also thriving in the spring, and that's when purple dead nettle and other forms of nettle are really prolific, or in the spring. We need minerals going into our cold season, but we also need nettles when we are going into the spring because we need these rich minerals. Right now, during this time of year, from the end of October until February, it starts getting really, really cold, starts to warm up in March, depending on where you are. But it's the sugar season. Halloween hits, or Day of the Dead, and there's just lots and lots of candy. And then we have Thanksgiving in Canada or here in the US, lots of desserts and more sugar. Then we have holiday parties, and then we have Hanukkah, and we have Christmas, and we have all these different holiday parties. And then we have New Year's, and we have cocktails and more sugar. Anyway, it's the sugar season, it's the flu season, it's the cold season. And so they kind of all overlap. And so we can't really blame one over the other. But when we eat sugar, that depletes our minerals. When we travel, that adds stress to the body, adds stress to the adrenals and the immune system. Those both need minerals. And when we're not sleeping because our schedules are off, we need more minerals. When we're exposed to viruses, maybe from compacted planes, maybe from changing environments, maybe from holiday parties. I know we used to always get sick a couple of days after Christmas, never, without fail. When my kids were little, one of them would be sick at Thanksgiving, one of them would be sick at Christmas. And it just happened quite often. Interesting enough, it just dawned on me that was before we moved to our farm and started our farm. And so it was also before we were eating whole food plant based. So now that we've been eating whole food plant based, that doesn't happen anymore. We're stronger and healthier. So there's a lot to be said about that. Another tangent. Anyway, when we're under stress, emotional stress, physical stress, changing schedules, scheduling things, working really hard so we can take that vacation and then having to recover from that vacation, all those things mean we need more minerals. We need to protect the adrenals, we need to support our immune system, and we need to work on balancing our blood sugar. So that is a topic for another discussion, but that's really, really important, not letting sugar get a hold of you. Now, true confession, I just ate a brownie for breakfast. And so those of you who can see me on YouTube, you can tell I still have like bedhead. I got up and ate my chia pudding, and then I remembered, oh, I have brownies left over from Thanksgiving yesterday. But my brownies were made with sweet potatoes and almond butter, and I did put in 2 tablespoons of maple syrup in an entire pan of brownies. And so a little bit of sugar, which, do you really need sugar with sweet potatoes? I don't know. Almond butter and cocoa, and then some oats. So it's pretty much baked oats, but it was a brownie, and I even blended some to make an icing. It was fabulous. Anyway, there are ways to add these foods without having sugar imbalances and sugar being thrown off. Now, if we're in a CGM, you can get them over the counter and watch your blood sugar to make sure that your blood sugar is staying stable, because if you rely on your doctor's data about blood sugar, they are not up to date unless you go to a functional medicine doctor. But even some of them are not up to date on blood sugar numbers. So anyway, another tangent. Why do I want nettles? So when we are stressed out, our minerals drop. That can show up as fatigue, that can show up as food cravings, that can show up as dry skin, headaches, irritability, muscle cramps. Do you have those leg cramps, or your feet are cramping, or you have high anxiety, or you have restless sleep, or maybe you are getting sick and you can't get over an illness. All of those are signs that we need more minerals. We need minerals to drive our energy cycles, for energy, and so it's so important. And if we are working out, like yesterday was Thanksgiving, maybe you didn't sleep last night, maybe you're out shopping, or so many people, which do not do this, I don't agree with this, are working out today and just sweating the alcohol out, sweating the sugar out, and just really pushing their body. They're loading up on caffeine to drive themselves today, and all of that depletes our minerals. And so don't do that. If you ate something or you drank something yesterday, don't feel guilty about it. You did what you did. If you feel guilty about it, your mind hears that, and that affects you in a different way than if you go, oh, this is so delicious. I'm enjoying this meal. I'm enjoying the company. Our mind hears what we're saying. So, another tangent. So, who would benefit from Nettles? So, if you're tired or wired or both, wired and tired, have you ever been that way? You just can't sleep because you're just, or you're getting ready for that vacation, or you're getting ready to for that holiday party, and or that you're trying to wrap presents and you buying things and all of that. Wired and tired, you need minerals. You're recovering from burnout or chronic stress, you need minerals. You have an adrenal imbalance. You've been told that by a doctor. You've looked at a Dutch test. I love looking at Dutch tests. I can look at yours if you would like for me to. Just let me know. You are prone to every cold that goes around. You are craving salt. So if you think about it, thousands of years ago, if we were craving sugar, we didn't have brownies, right? What would be around us that would be sweet? It would be berries, fruits, some root vegetables. Those things are very high in vitamins. The root vegetables are high in minerals. But when we're craving those sweeter things, that is our microbiome saying, hello, we need some vitamins and minerals. Usually it's vitamins for the sweet. If we're craving minerals, we're usually craving salt, like celery. If you really pay attention to just tasting celery, it's really salty. So is nettles. Very, very high in minerals. They're salty. So when we're craving salt, we don't need to reach for potato chips. We need to reach for something that is very rich in minerals. Potato chips do not have minerals that our body needs. If we have heavy schedules, we are traveling a lot, if we are having trouble with women, having trouble with a monthly cycle, minerals are necessary. If your fingernails are weak, my fingernails are so strong. You're having trouble growing your hair's brittle. Like I said, dry skin, or you have weak bones, you've had a DEXA scan and know you need to focus on your bones. There are better tests than DEXA. We'll talk about that at another time. But all of those things, that is when we need nettles. My favorite way to use nettles is in a tea. I drink it in a tea. And I should have brought it for those of you watching YouTube, but I have this fabulous little tea ball, but it's not a tea ball. It like screws together. It's a little canister. And I will put the nettle in there. Well, nettle, it doesn't have a really great flavor, so I'll put a little bit of peppermint, and then I like to put a little chamomile in there. So chamomile is very calming. Chamomile is not right for everyone, but just pairing it even with some tulsi or some lavender or some peppermint or something that does have a really good taste, putting it in a tea ball and making a tea. It could be a cold infusion, meaning put it in cold water. You can put it in hot water. It doesn't matter. You're going to extract some of those minerals in the water. So that's my favorite way to consume nettles. Sometimes I'll even put it in water and leave it overnight, like a moon brew, and drink it that way. It's going to be really strong in minerals. But whatever you do, it's great because, like I said, it can be used as a food or an herb. You can throw it into soups. People use it like spinach. You can put it in broths. If you can get fresh nettles, don't eat it raw, but you can steam it and saute it and use it in recipes like you do any other spinach recipe. Just replace the spinach with that. And then you could always use a tincture or a capsule. Those are okay to use, but I prefer a water infusion. That's going to be the best way to nourish your body every day. So, is nettles right for everyone? If you're on diuretics, then they can be have diuretic properties, and so you want to make sure if you're on diuretics that you're really careful with nettles. If you're taking blood pressure medicine, then you may need to watch your blood pressure. So it's one of those things that doctors that have people on pharmaceuticals may not like because they're going to have to watch you and adjust your meds. You may be able to go off your meds. Now, I'm not telling you to do that. Medical disclaimer, I am not your doctor. I am not a doctor. I am not telling you what to do or not to do. Follow your doctor's advice, but know that nettles can have an effect on your meds where they need to be adjusted. If you have kidney issues, a diuretic like nettles needs to be looked at? Maybe. There are some studies that show that they need to be watched, but nettles is so high in minerals. And if you're not using a tincture, then it is just like a food. And so, as a tea, it's going to be safe for you. If you are on lithium, lithium can change our sodium balance and it can affect how medicines are cleared. And so you do want to watch that as well. So, pretty much, if you're on a prescription, then you want to be careful taking nettles. Read about your prescription and read how it is affected if you have other nettles. I already mentioned fresh nettles can be is stingy, even the dried. Like, so we'll cut it, even it'll sting you through your gloves too. And so you need some good quality gloves and you cut it and then we put it in dehydrator trays and dry it, and then we put it in jars. But even when I grab it, sometimes it can be a little stingy still. And so you have to be careful with that handling of the nettles. Now, if you buy it and just already crushed from somewhere like Holistic Botanicals or Mountain Rose Herbs, that's not going to sting you with the handling. It's just mine is just really, really fresh. Anyway, it's one of my favorites because it's so high in minerals. You can see I'm always full of energy. And if you don't know my story, you can listen to my story. But I was diagnosed with autoimmune disease back in 2007 with Graves' disease. And then I had my thyroid ablated in 2013 after arguing with my doctor. And that threw me into Hashimoto's. I had several different other autoimmune diseases here and there along the way because there is no cure, but you can reverse it and have no antibodies and have lots of energy and feel really good, like I do today, if you learn to listen to your body, eat a whole food diet that is nice and clean, and use herbs to help balance your body and fuel your body. So I hope this was helpful for you today. I'm sorry Dan wasn't with us, but he will be back shortly. Send him some love and comment below. Let me know if you learned something new today, if you like nettles, if there's another herb you'd like for us to discuss on our podcast. And you can find out more about Dan at danthenaturalman.com or about me at Holistic Jen. That's with the W. I spelled WHOLISTIC Jen.com. I'm Holistic Jen. So holisticjen.com to find out more about me. But thank you for joining me today and for letting me talk about my favorite herb. I'm going to go finish enjoying my nettle peppermint chamomile tea now, and I look forward to seeing you or talking with you on our next episode.